The Darko era has officially begun in Toronto. What's next for Fred VanVleet? And the Denver Nuggets are kings of the NBA. This is Hoop Talks. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Hoop Talks. Justin Pooni, Jelani Goodridge-Reid, Crina Mustafa, Noor Zainab. The gang is back together talking some basketball, more specifically the NBA variety. Don't worry, basketball season is not over. The W is in full swing. So all you basketball fans, make sure you keep it locked to the W right there.
Whoa, okay,
You like
okay.
that?
I see you. That was too late.
I know it's too late. But anyway. When was the last time all four of us were together?
Last
You
week.
say this every time we
Really?
record.
Yeah, last week.
Justin,
There's a lot of moving parts
keep
in
it
this
moving.
thing. But anyway,
Keep it moving.
speaking of moving parts, yesterday outdoors, an outdoor press conference for the Toronto Raptors. I guess trying to build the morale after what was a dark cloud of a season last year.
Yeah, so we
But
don't
there
have to
was
talk
no
about last
clouds in the sky yesterday. It was clear skies.
You're a little slow today.
Nobody asked you for your opinion.
Nobody asked you for your
He
puns.
could have
Yeah,
gone Darko.
yeah, that's what
and
I thought
he
he said.
didn't,
Yeah, whatever.
And that's why you screwed
Okay,
up. This is why you don't
Raptors
host.
introduced new coach Darko Rajakovic, and there's a whole lot of things to unpack, so let's unpack it. So Crina, I'm going to start with you first because you're trying to call me up for some weird reason, so I'm going to give it to you first.
Okay.
What was your biggest takeaway from Darko and some of the things he talked about?
I think my biggest takeaway is that it feels like the Raptors are starting to choose a new direction just based on the hiring. I think my initial reaction was kind of like, oh, I wasn't expecting it based on like who we've been talking about leading up to the hiring. But it seems like he's very offensive minded, but also has a defensive plan according to some of the things he said in that press conference. It sounds like he's ready to become creative with this team. He could not stop smiling the entire time. That was a big takeaway for me. I really hope the Raptors don't give him a reason to start frowning, but I think hopefully this means also like wiping out all the assistant coaches, starting over. I think that's also another good sign, and we'll see what happens with the roster, but overall it was good vibes in my opinion.
I think for me, Darko Rajakovic, he signifies three things with this new team. Offense, oh shit. I legitimately had everything. Offense, culture, and development. Oh my God. Sorry guys, it's Wednesday. So for
Yeah, it's only
offense,
Wednesday.
if you look at his past, he's been with the likes of OKC, with the Memphis Grizzlies, and if you know when he was there too, he kind of helped implement their offensive game, and it worked really well for him as well, because at the same time, he was developing their young guys in Memphis and OKC. So this, to me, shows that him coming here, he's going to make the two things that the Raptors have been lacking in offense and development really come to life. And he's going to have, hopefully, the right roster. I don't know what it will look like. I think Bobby was actually on the Fan 590 recently, and he did say he plans and he wants to bring back Yak, and he wants to bring back Gary, and wants to bring back Fred. And I don't know how much of that is just PR management, how much of that is truth. So I don't know what that would entail when it comes to development, but I think we can still hope for a lot of development within, even especially the bench, and Scotty.
Well, we talked about development. There were some young guys in at the press conference yesterday. Delano Banton, I think it was Ron Harper Jr. was there as well. So there's a couple of young guys there. But Jelani, before, and we were kind of teased about it, we're going to talk about some player movement afterwards. But I want to ask you first, when you look at this hire, right? I'd say that the Scotty Barnes is the focal point of this hire, and he's now the focal point of the Toronto Raptors. With the hire of Darko now, do you think that is the case, or do you still see guys like Pascal or Fred, if he's still around, to be the focal point of this roster?
Well, I think Scotty's definitely the focus moving forward. Obviously, he's a young player, our young star, so you want to see how the Raptors are going to look moving forward with Scotty and that development, how he continues to grow as a player. But due to the fact that Bobby did come out and say these things about guys like Fred VanVleet, specifically Fred. He was really talking about Fred, like, I want to keep him here. He's a leader. So, again, just to the point that we don't know what the team's going to look like yet, but I would say, yes, Darko is here to develop Scotty Barnes.
And
because, real quick, just because, like, OKC, the points that Noor pointed out, the teams that he was on with Scott Brooks, they developed those guys, KD and Russ. Not even those two. Like, other guys on that roster. You look at
Dennis
guys that
Schroeder,
people forget about.
right? Andre
On that team.
Roberson.
Roberson. Those guys really shined when it mattered most. And then you're talking about even Phoenix. he was there too. Before they got really good, he was there too. So you're talking about what he did with Monty Williams. Obviously, Memphis has done a good job. So I think it's definitely development.
I think the last thing I want to touch on this point is maybe Crina, you can add to this as well. The things he did with guys like not so much John Morant but Jaren Jackson Jr., Dylan Brooks. Say whatever you want about Dylan Brooks, right? But he's become an everyday NBA player.
Jaren Johnson,
Cam Johnson, right? And
even like Desmond Bane.
Bane, right? And I think go back to Phoenix, like you mentioned, that was the year where they kind of arrived in the bubble, where they won a bunch of games in the bubble, and they kind of the next year they took off when they got Chris Paul. So Crina, is player development, should that be the main focus for the Toronto Raptors going into next year, or is it still trying to get into the playoffs?
I think you can do both. I think what happened last year was that it was a lot of trying to get into the playoffs and none of the player development with the way that things ended up shaking out with Nick Nurse and playing minutes and dispersing all of that. Now you bring in a coach who is used to player development but has done it in a way that is leading the teams that he's worked with to the playoffs. And so that proves that you can still do that with this Raptors squad, because they're not that far out of the playoffs, but depending on what they do, I feel like he can still help them get there.
Noor, again, I'll get your answer to that same question, but yeah, do you think that a guy like Scottie should be prioritized and his development should be prioritized over winning games and just trying to get into the playoffs as a top 6 seed?
As Crina said, I think you can do both. I think if your players are playing well and they have the right resources, as in the right coaches and the right staff, then they can also win at the same time as well. So it goes hand in hand, and I honestly think we have the right guy, because especially with the Raptors have a lot of international players too who are multilingual. Darko himself can speak Spanish. He can speak multiple languages as well. And when he was in OKC with his time
Italian?
there, oh man.
Sorry,
that was
ragging on you.
That one was embarrassing. But when he was in OKC, he was helping develop Serge, and he used to travel to Spain to help Serge develop his game. And Serge even said that for him it was super easy because English was a little bit harder for him back then. So him being able to communicate in Spanish and the whole thing. So I think his track record bodes very well for this team, especially for this roster. No matter what happens. Sorry.
No problem. I thought she was done talking there, but she wasn't. Anyway, Jelani, last thing on Darko. Do you think that hiring a new coach and having a new assistant coaching staff, that is exactly what this team needed to kind of reset that culture, or is that more so going to be on the players that they bring in?
Well, I think it's definitely going to help the culture. We needed a shift, right? I like Nick Nurse, I do, but even with him, you knew it was time for something else. I think his voice was lost in the locker room. So maybe having a new guy who's been in the league, and even prior to being in the NBA level, he was already a coach for a long time. So he knows what he's doing. I think he talked about the shared vision. He wants to share that vision with the players. He will be there for the players, not only on the court but off the court. That's what I liked to see with that press conference the other day. And he just seems really happy. Like Crina said, he's
Look
very
at that smile.
He's ecstatic to be here. Of course, like he got a NBA head coaching job. I'd be happy too. But yeah, no, he feels like he could help us moving forward, and that's what I want to see. And he's here to help the team. Depending on what the roster looks like, I'm not expecting a title right now, but I'm expecting to see some building blocks to something greater moving forward, and less drama, because this past season was filled with drama. So yeah, I feel like there's a new culture shift here. Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster, they really emphasized that point. They wanted that new coach not to only be here for tactics and X's and O's. They wanted a guy who would command the locker room and be a voice for the locker room, and also be a guy that could fit the Raptors culture. And I could see that, because he is someone from Europe. He is international squad being here in Toronto. I think that really helps. So yeah, I'm happy, and I love the photo shoot that he had with the Raps the other day. He was looking like
evil villain.
GQ. He was out there with the GQ with the blue. I saw him.
Grizzlies call him Mr. Swag. Like his
he's tough. He's tough.
Yeah.
I like him. New vibes.
Well, the Raptors with their new head coach are plus 6,500 to win the NBA championship next year. 17th best.
I'm not betting that.
You just posed the question. I'm just giving people. He posed a statement. I'm just giving the numbers to back up that statement. That's it. Now, speaking of backing up, Fred VanVleet's gonna get that Brinks truck backed up to his home in Rockford, Illinois, probably, because he's gonna get a big deal as he declined his player option. Is now set to become an unrestricted free agent. I think it was $22 million. Made the most sense for him to decline it and make the most amount of money. But now he's set to be a free agent and free to whoever wants to acquire his services. Toronto Raptors, including one of those people or one of those groups, as Jelani mentioned. Bobby Webster wants to keep Fred VanVleet, believes he's a leader. Noor Zainab, the simple question is this. Does Fred VanVleet stay in Toronto?
I really don't want to wake any hives anywhere. Everybody is so strong on Fred on either side that it's so hard to be like, I don't even see either side. I don't get the let's fucking trade him, or I don't get the we gotta keep him. I don't get either sides. But the thing is, at this point, the best thing you can do is probably either find a good sign and trade, or you have to keep him, because letting him go walk for free is gonna look so bad on the organization.
So which one would you rather, though?
Yeah, that's what would you rather do?
That's what he's asking.
What would you rather do?
If it was a good sign and trade, you can get sign and trade.
Okay.
Sign and trade.
Yeah, number one. That's number one option.
But
for sure.
the one thing with a sign and trade is though, he decides where he wants to go, and then
Yeah,
he's doing
and
the Raptors a favor. Right?
I think with the relationship he's built with the organization, as you can tell, they trust him. They think he's their leader. They've put all their eggs in his basket. And if he chooses to go somewhere, he's going to be like Lowry, where he'll make sure that the Raptors get something out of it. Now, of course, he will put himself first, but he will still try to think about the place that he's leaving
And
behind.
at that point, you're still getting something in return. Like, you're not getting
that's
nothing.
still
You're getting like
something.
what, like a quarter to like the dollar or whatever?
That's still something then for free.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd rather not lose him for like nothing. Like, I'd rather get something back. But I think, look, he always talks about it. Bet on yourself. I believe he's going to. I really think he's going
a $100 million contract.
There's going to be a team out there that's going to offer something. And you're talking about Orlando, maybe. You're talking about
Wait,
Chicago, because
who's
their problems with Lonzo not being healthy. They might need a guy like that on their team. The Lakers are always lingering. Sixers, his relationship with Nurse, you never know.
If Harden goes, yeah.
So there are options. There are other options on the outside where you're talking about maybe Phoenix, if they could figure out a way. Maybe the Celtics, because they do need a commander in terms of a point guard
Sorry,
that can
Marcus
oversee
Smart,
the
you're not
court.
that guy.
But so there's options. Yeah, there's options. I think he's gonna bet on himself, because I feel like he's done a good job in Toronto for where he came from as an undrafted player and things of that nature. He won a championship, but at this point he doesn't want the bag. I believe he wants the bag. And as for the Raptors, seeing how he played this season, right? There were issues. It wasn't all smooth sailing this year. As much as we love Fred, let's be honest, okay? He wasn't always shooting at a high clip or wasn't performing at a high level, throughout the year. There were bumps throughout the year in terms of the road that we had. So probably if you're the Raptors, you don't want to lose a leader like that, of course, because he's such a key piece. I think he is the backbone of the Raptors, so you don't want to lose him. That's why Bobby wants to keep him. But at the same time, depending on the direction you go, you might want to think about it real hard and be like, I don't know if we're going to pay or overpay in terms of like other teams might want to offer a lot. Are you going to match that? I don't know.
And it's also just a question of like, what is going to go on with Pascal? Like, do you keep him? Because the Raptors
apparently he's gonna get traded.
Because apparently they don't want to retool. They don't want to rebuild. They want to retool. I don't even know what any of those words mean at this point.
Yeah.
It's like feels like different in every context. But like, if you let go of Pascal and Fred, that doesn't really feel like retooling. It feels like you're starting
No, that's a new
over.
direction. That's a new direction.
Like, and so that's
Those
why it's
are your
going to be a
stars.
bit confusing.
Those are your stars.
Yeah,
No,
I'm not saying. I didn't say anything. I didn't
know
say
your
anything.
face is like,
Unprovoking.
I don't know. But no, if you
I
get
think Fred
rid of those
VanVleet's a
guys,
star.
Pascal Siakam's not a star. Please
We're
don't
not
give me
gonna get
that.
into this.
Literally
I know, I'm just saying, don't give me that. Don't give me that.
Don't even.
Look,
but
don't
you
give me that.
can't make
Come on
non-factual
now.
statements.
Come on now.
It doesn't
He was a
help us
one-time-
back you
I'm
up.
not saying anything. Hey, in my book, it's
just
different.
That's your
honest.
book. My book
Hey.
says something different.
I was a strict teacher. You're the nice.
I am the nice
that everyone,
teacher.
Everybody
Yes.
loves to hang out.
That's
with.
right. That's correct.
But here's the thing, too, right? They could really have fumbled the bag big time with this. They could have traded Fred VanVleet at the deadline. If he chooses to walk, right, and go somewhere else.
Yeah, but
and
you're living in the past now.
I'm
It
just
has
saying.
already
I'm just
happened.
saying this, right? If I'm Masai
Can we just
Ujiri,
look at what we got?
Okay.
going
No,
on
if you're
right
Masai-
looking at the road ahead of Fred VanVleet, right? Who's his agent, guys? Do you guys know who his agent is?
Yes,
Yes.
we know.
Best agent in the game. What's his name? Rich Paul. Who's the head of Clutch Sports? LeBron James. I'm just saying the Lakers
a
could
fill in
free
the
up to
blank.
$30 million of cap space. They need a point guard. D'Angelo Russell isn't that good. Look, Fred VanVleet in the purple and gold. Talk about betting on yourself right there. You're going to be in the biggest market in the NBA, getting over $100 million contract.
His
Look,
eyes.
everybody,
Eyes are, like, firing up.
Phoenix will want him. Orlando, Philly, Houston. He's
Yeah,
gonna
you're
have
taking the teams I mentioned.
options.
You
right?
just want everyone
just saying the
out of
teams I mentioned.
Toronto.
No, hold on.
I think his agenda is Toronto doesn't
No.
have a team anymore.
No,
Everyone poaches the guys here, so there's no team left.
That's not what I was. If you let me finish
what
before
you
you
want.
cut
That's
me
what
off.
you want.
Look, if I'm the Toronto Raptors, I do everything I can to keep Fred VanVleet. He is a guy you want to build your culture around because he's a guy who, like you mentioned, Jelani, bet on himself, worked his way through the ranks to become an all-star, to become an NBA champion, to sign an $85 million contract, to now get over $100 million a year. Sorry, not a year, but $100 million total contract, right? Fred VanVleet is the story that young players need to follow. And I think you need to keep that. But
You're
they
keeping
left,
it for a story?
but yeah, because the mentality. The Raptors don't have the mentality. If everybody had the mentality of Fred VanVleet, this
If
team would be in a
telling
better
kids
place.
stories at night helped the Raptors win a championship, then yes.
Okay.
But this is not of the story
Whatever.
business, Justin.
Anyway, if you don't
can't
agree
make
with me,
statements like
agree
that.
with me, disagree, I don't care. I'm just saying that the Raptors should do everything they should keep with
Hard
Fred
disagree.
VanVleet, right? But we'll see what happens. We'll see. Now, before we finish off, I want to talk about and give some love to the Denver Nuggets, who won their first NBA championship in franchise history. Nikola Jokic, of course, was the Finals MVP. Jamal Murray, Canadian,
Yes.
coming back from almost could have been a career-ending injury and balling out. Aaron Gordon, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Bruce Brown, Coach Mike Malone, owner Stan Kroenke seems to be winning a title every year. Quickly, let's go around the desk here. I'll start with you, Jelani. Just some final thoughts on the Denver Nuggets and this NBA season, and
Very impressed with my guy Jokic. Very happy for my guy Jokic. I was defending this man for years, man. Back when they were wearing the powder blue, I was defending this man. So I was very happy to see him win this championship and a fantastic playoff performance, something we've never seen before. He led all major categories, of course, triple-double machine, and Kitchener's finest. We have to give a big shout out to my guy Jamal Murray, man. The way he showed up, he is a star in this league. And I remember people were like, oh, he can't be a 2 on a championship team. Really? Okay. Yeah. So look, man, I was very impressed with that. Michael Malone, very good coach as well. But the question is now, everyone wants to talk about, can they go back-to-back dynasty? Let's pump the brakes. Okay, let's pump the brakes. We don't know what the offseason is going to show us. People are going to move around.
Still have the parade on Thursday.
Correct.
That Jokic doesn't want to go to.
I know. He wants to go back with his new horse. Okay, he's getting another horse. Okay, but look, it's going to be tough to repeat. There hasn't been a team that has even gone to consecutive finals since the 19 Warriors. Okay, so it's going to be something to watch, of course, but they're here to stay. They're here to stay. They're a younger team on the younger side of 30. They're big guys. Got them locked up. So, yeah.
What a great story/journey it has been for them. And why are you making that face, Justin? You look bored. Anyway,
He's an Embiid fan. So,
I just like, and you could tell,
he's
like,
hurt. His butt hurt.
You know what?
You know?
Just,
and you
It is
could
what it
just-
is.
Say
Okay.
your feet,
Sorry. Your face just threw me off a little bit. But you could just tell like how much it meant to them, how much it meant to Jamal Murray. I think that to me was the biggest thing. Like he was in tears the whole time. You could tell how much. It's so interesting to hear players' perspective when they go through an injury like that, because something that he did mention in the interviews after the game, where he was like, I went through a lot of time alone and with myself, and I think you gain a lot of perspective. And it was really nice that he had a good support system around him too, and his teammates and his family, and that he was able to get back to being who he is and just playing so well. I think that was actually like my favorite part of this Nuggets title run.
One thing I love is consistency. You guys know me. I love consistency. And the fact that the Nuggets... I get
just waiting for
the
the
face
point.
thing. I really do get the face thing. Holy man. And the fact that the Nuggets not only maintained a high seed in the Western Conference pretty much all year long, and they came out on fire throughout the playoffs and took care of business every step along the way. And I think it just goes to show that this was a team that we all were just like, show us in the playoffs. Show us in the playoffs. Like, because they always were consistently a very good regular season team. But seeing them do that this whole year, and still, like, even myself, like, kind of being like, we'll see what happens. Regardless of them being first and second all year long, I was like, we'll see what happens in the playoffs. But they really did the thing this year. And honestly, shout out to parity. 5 different championships for the past 5 years.
Love it.
That's what we
Consistent
love to see.
parity.
Love to see. Yes.
I knew that was his first thought when he made that face, but
Just like...
I like it. No, that was I agree with everything you said there. They had a very good, not even very good, excellent championship caliber playoff run. Nikola Jokic.
Regular season too is what I'm
regular
saying.
season,
Just
exactly.
the whole way through. And Jokic was playing throughout the whole way. All way of it.
Yeah.
Hey, load management. Take a look at Nikola Jokic. Am I right?
And the fact that he looks like he's out of
silence.
Yeah, I don't even listen.
Silence.
The fact that he looks like he's out of breath like by the second quarter, and he probably played like the most
And he'll
NBA
still
games all
destroy
year.
you. Yeah.
Insane. Looks like an accountant about to come and like fall asleep in 2 seconds, but no, he's drilling every single shot and passing every single one too the best way possible.
Well, there you have it, folks.
There
the
we have
NBA
it,
season
folks.
has come to an end. Well, it's going to be exciting off season. Fred VanVleet will be a Los Angeles Laker if I have my way. Imagine that. But of course, we'll be here in the Homestand Studios as always, breaking it all down in this off season. So take care.